As it's me, it's Queen Osedaru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Now, I was talking to someone the other day, and they asked me, do I think that marriage is necessary or even important in this day and age? Now, some of you may and you may not know that in the early days, and I'm thinking specifically of the United States, women didn't have a lot of rights. We still have some problems with equality, but we didn't have a lot of rights back then. We weren't able to own property. We weren't able to own and operate a business. We couldn't have custody of our children. And this depended on what state you were in. It could be worse than even that. Women had just no rights. So getting married was really smart back then because that was how you were able to accomplish those things, how you were able to have kids, how you were able to maybe run a business with your husband or something along those lines. But basically, you didn't have any other options. There were some women that went against the grain. That's why we had those pioneers in feminism and women's rights and suffrage and those kind of movements. And because of those movements, if you like them or not, that's why we have rights now. Otherwise, we still wouldn't have any. The right to vote comes to mind. So all of those rights came about after the fact, and it made sense to get married for a female back then because of that. Now you can be independent. You can have your own business. You can have custody of your kids. You can do all of that kind of stuff now. So the question becomes, is marriage still important? And this is the thing about marriage. Marriage has two different functions in our society. If you look at the legalities of it, you know, that function is basically, like I said before, so the couple can build wealth together, have a family together, have children, and build wealth together, maybe, even combine their families together. It has a lot of functional, financial kind of functions to it. Um, but there's also other things to it. Marriage isn't just about the piece of paper. Marriage also, the other function, the second function, is a spiritual function. Some people don't get married because they want to accumulate wealth. Some people come together because they love each other, or they want to get married because they want their union to be blessed by God. Some of the times it's not about that. I saw a woman on YouTube or maybe Facebook, it was Facebook, and she was talking about how you shouldn't marry for love. And I was thinking, no, you shouldn't marry for love, because a lot of people, that's absolutely what they want to get married for. Otherwise, they see no point in getting married, you know? So if you have to think about what marriage means to you. If it's just a document, just a piece of paper, just a financial agreement between two people, you may or may not want to enter into the agreement, because you can be in a relationship with someone and still protect yourself legally. You can combine, you can buy a house together. I mean, you don't have to be married to in most states, you don't have to be married to do a lot of stuff. So you can be common law married, you can live in two different places, you can do a number of legal things nowadays. I know a couple that doesn't want to get married, but the man in the couple has adopted the woman's children. So they're raising the kids together, but they're still not married. You don't have to be married to do certain things. So if people want to do that, you don't have to be married. Marriage is all about, what does it mean to you? And if you want your union blessed by God, if you want to have a certain type of bond, a certain kind of a spiritual union, because that's really what it's about. You don't have to actually do legalities to do that. Plenty of people do what we call spiritual marriages. So basically, they will do a hand fasting. In the Wicca tradition, they call it a hand fasting. So basically, you write a ritual, you both do the ritual together at your altar, bam, boom, bam, you have a spiritual marriage. And different cultures do that and call it different things. You can go to a church and get married without being legally married in some cases. You don't have to get legally married. Taking that piece of paper and notarizing it at City Hall doesn't have to occur. You can have a spiritual marriage where you just come together. I know a couple that it's a lesbian couple, and they did a hand fasting, and they did a beautiful ceremony. With their friends, surrounded by family, and it was not illegal. They did it before it was legal in the United States, so it wasn't legal at that time. It was just a spiritual marriage, so you don't have to go through the legalities. The question really is, what does marriage mean to you? In this day and age, it's not necessary because you can do everything without it, but some people still want it. So the question then becomes, how does your partner or potential partners feel about marriage? Because whether or not it's going to be necessary really depends on the other person. Your partner may have it set in their heart that they want a spiritual union with another person, and they may or may not care if it's legal. So it depends on the other person. And then of course your feelings come into consideration here too. So it's really just a compromise between the two of you deciding, is marriage important? Is marriage something that you want to do? So to answer your question, no, it's not necessary, but some people still really want to do it, and it's okay. It's okay if you want to do it, and it's okay if you don't want to do it, in my book, because some people get pressured into getting married, pressured into having kids, pressured into starting a family, it's buying a house, and some people don't want that life, and that's okay. But if you do want that traditional life, that's okay too. But you just have to make sure that the person that you're with wants what you want. This is where a lot of couples get into trouble in my book, because what happens is that they meet each other, they both have two totally different ideas about where they want the relationship to go. They start seeing each other. Most people don't talk about this kind of stuff at first. It's just kind of expected. Most of us expect that we're going to get married at some point. So this is something that couples need to talk about up front. If you meet somebody, if you meet a gentleman and you know you're not trying to marry his ass, tell him up front, that's not something I'm open to. I'm open to a spiritual marriage. I'm open to common law marriage. I'm open to cohabitating, but I'm not really open to doing a legal document. Or I am open to doing a legal document, and I really don't want to just cohabitate. Whatever you want, you need to state up front. Because if they don't want the same thing, it doesn't make sense to get serious with them. And this is what happens with a lot of couples I see. A lot of couples I see don't have the conversation. And then a little bit down the line, usually one of them is waiting for the other one to say something about it, or to give a clue or indication that this is what they want. And when they don't get that indication, when they don't get that clue, then they ask them about it. By this time, it's a year, 2 years, 9 months, 3 years later. And now it's like y'all in too deep now. Now you're in a deep relationship, and the person says, well, look, I don't want to get married. I just want to cohabitate. Or cohabitating isn't cool with me. I really want to get married. And then that becomes something that they fight back and forth about. I know a couple right now, they've been together for 10 years and they've been fighting about this for 10 years because the woman really wants to get married and the man feels like, for what? I'm not going anywhere. You get all my money. We have a joint bank account. He told me we have a home together. We have kids. What the heck do we need a piece of paper for? So he's dead set against it. And the girlfriend, and she's been with him so long, they are common law married. But she's like, I don't understand, what's the big deal? If we're not going to break up, if we're going to stay together, then why is getting married a big deal? Because of what it represents to him. It represents something to him that he's really not comfortable with. And that's where the argument comes in. So here we are, 10 years all together, they've been arguing about this, and they're still together. So the question becomes for both of them, they have to compromise somewhere and figure out which is more important. Is it more important to get married, or is it more important not to get married? And for each one of us, the answer to this question is going to be different. Aquarius have the tendency to get married later in life, if they get married at all. A lot of Aquarius never get married. And the ones that do get married later in life. So for me, marriage is something that I want a spiritual union with someone, but it doesn't have to be a legal document. We can secure our legalities in other ways. You know, you can will the person belongings. It's all kind of ways, because if you think about the gay community in the United States could not get married until recently, thanks to Barack Obama's administration. But before that, you never could. But people have always been finding clever ways to give each other the same legal privileges without being able to get married. Like I said, adopting the other person's children, willing all of their things to that person in a legal document. There's all kind of different ways. Putting it in writing with a notary republic if they're sick, that this person is the one that's in charge, giving them what they call power of attorney. There's lots of ways you can get around being married and still have legal protection. So all of this depends on what's important to you. And we're all going to answer this question differently. So it's not necessary in the sense that it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, but there are some people that it is a deal breaker. If you don't want to get married, they're not going to want to be with you, and that's fine. You have to find somebody that matches you in that way. And then still others really don't care. They don't really care about it. They don't even think it's important. To me, the spiritual aspect of the matrimony is the most important part, and that's the part that I really want. When I get into a relationship with someone, I do want that spiritual part, but it doesn't have to be done at City Hall. We can go out into the forest and do a hand fasting, and I will be happy with that, because to me, that's all I really want. But the question is the other person okay with that? So you have to figure out where you are with marriage and where your partner is with it. And I suggest asking those questions up front and early. That's something you can know by like the third month, maybe even the third date. You can ask that question. That's not an inappropriate question to hypothetically say, well, what do you think about marriage? Do you think you would ever get married one day? Or is that something that you never want to do? Some people have been married before and don't want to do it again. Some people want a prenuptial agreement. That's definitely something y'all should talk about beforehand. Not something you want to pop on your fiance the night before the wedding. So there's a lot of things that people need to talk about. These are some of those hard conversations I always encourage you to have. These are those honest talks that you should have fairly early in the relationship, so you know if you should take that person seriously or not. A lot of people will change their mind too based on their heart. If they fall in love with a person, they may change their mind. But I would start to ask those questions in the beginning, because I really wouldn't want to chance that. I don't like chancing that somebody may or may not change their mind, even though it does happen. I wouldn't really want to chance that. I want you to come in the door knowing what you want. Okay? So I hope that helps. All right, guys. Now, if you want to give a love donation, because, gifts is my love language, then I'll leave my PayPal. If you would like to get an oracle card or a tarot card reading, I'll also leave my email. If you want me to answer a question on Ask An Aquarius, a free general question, you can email that to me as well, or leave it underneath in the comment section. I'll also drop my social media, my Facebook and my Instagram underneath here, so you can hit me up if you want to. And that's it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to someone else who's questioning if marriage is for them or not. Okay? Thanks, guys. See you later.